Welcome to the jungle. We've just come off a victory, 71-58 over the Murray State Racers, who were 10-1 coming into this game. So they're a good team, a good victory. We've officially gotten through at a conference play without having to do a loss podcast, which I very much enjoy. We did a full wrap for Atlanta, so we didn't actually have to come in and do a loss after that UConn double OT. And we're also undefeated through regulation right now. Matt, who was your MVP for this game?
I love the undefeated through regulation stat. Thank you for throwing that in. So this is different. You're not going to like this, but I do think we need to have a conversation about this before we just throw out MVPs, because Wendell Green seemed like the obvious choice, and he probably still is, but Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler made it interesting down the stretch. Those are the three guys I'm looking at. What do you think?
They've made it complicated, man. We've got a lot of great players on this team. We've talked about how deep this team is. Everyone's talking about how deep this team is. We kind of have, I think we talked about last podcast, we have 5 guys. We feel good to go off for 20 at any night. And it looks like right now we're not letting people go off for 20 every night because we're spreading it all around and everyone's playing great. Everybody's playing great ball. And we talked about it in text messages that Wendell would be our MVP probably when he was going off. But then you look at Walker Kessler at 13 points and 7 blocks. 7. He was on double alert there for a minute for blocks. And then on top of that, 7 rebounds. He just alters the game altogether. And then you got Jabari, of course, just casually always with these doubles. Like he just makes it look so easy. He kind of disappeared at parts of this game, so I'm not going to give him the MVP, maybe because we hold him too high of a standard. But in a game like this where it's all spread around, maybe the like kind of putting over the edge thing is big time plays. And when Wendell Green hit a beyond half court 3, like that's got to be the moment of the game, and that's why he's getting MVP.
Okay, yeah, I mean that moment was, which I saw some people on Twitter a little confused. That was an end of shot clock. Like he didn't just take that, he had to take it, but he went into it so confidently and stared it down after it left his hand. It was awesome, and he realized he had made a mistake he was letting the ball bounce a little bit. I think he thought he had more time, and then he realized it, made up for it, and it was a swish, no doubt.
I think he thought that the ball had just gone back behind half court, that it wasn't tipped. And then he kind of let it go. Like one of those, man, I can't believe we're about to have a turnover. I don't want to touch the ball. And then I guess someone yelled or the crowd got into it. And it's like, no, it's tipped. He ran down there and got it and ran back. And he might have had one more second left, but he stopped right for that half court, threw it up, nothing but net. They showed the replays. He's staring the ball down and then turning around. Man, we talked about those long threes, and I think he's officially with that one. He's winning the battle right now with Cambridge alley-oops, that the long Wendell threes are the game changers.
It's hard to argue against it. He controlled the entire offensive flow of this game in the second half. I believe he had 0 or 2 points in the first half, and then he did a little bit of everything. He had a beautiful little runner with a left-hand finish. That was short. He got a lot of assists. He only ended up with 2 assists, but the thing I love about Wendell is he pushes the pace at all times, but he does it pretty under control. He had a couple turnovers, but I just thought his energy, he opened up the offense after a few stretches tonight, and we'll talk about it, but there were some turnovers issues tonight for the first time in a while for this team. I'm not going to argue with Wendell. It's just hilarious that Jabari Smith can go 12 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and, shoot 40% from 3. And we're like, and Kessler, 7 blocks. Like you said, he's, Auburn is number 1 in the country in blocks. And we blew that number out with 11 in this game. So
with Wendell, it wasn't only it makes it sound like if you didn't watch the game that we're talking about his offense and his shooting and that one big 3 that's really putting it over. But the 10 rebounds is also humongous. And he wouldn't be in this conversation if it wasn't for the 10 rebounds. And I think what happened was we talked last game about how we got blown out in rebounds against St. Louis. And I think they got in the ears of these guards. And I was listening to some other podcast maybe, or some comments online. They were talking about a big reason we missed out on these rebounds because the bigs were doing their job, but the guards were going on fast breaks immediately. Every time the ball started getting bounced around, they immediately turned to try to get that fast break. And I think they've kind of turned that around this game. And the bigs really block guys out. And if they didn't get the rebound, Wendell Green or whoever the guards were crashing in there too. And last game, those balls kind of bounced around and St. Louis picked them up. This time, we picked them up each time. And then this also kind of brings it. So he got those 10 rebounds. and he got that like insane three. And right after that, Leor Berman had like a crazy bank three. And you know, there's a lot of nights where the ball just doesn't go your way. That St. Louis game even felt like that a little bit. There's going to be several of those games this year, and we're really quick to say during those games that, well, we lost, we didn't play that bad, the ball just didn't go our way. I think we need to acknowledge when it goes the other way. The balls went our way this game. Like the balls go your way a lot more when you're playing really well. But there was a half court three, that bank three. It felt like we picked up a lot of balls that were just hanging around, and that's because we were crashing them. But I think it's good to acknowledge sometimes when Absolutely. It's your night, you know.
And not just that, you know, Murray State missed some crucial free throws in the first half. Mm-hmm. I thought a lot of the loose balls kind of just ended up in our hands, or we had a couple breaks, and you know that happens. Let's talk about. I'm good with Wendell, by the way. Wendell can officially be our MVP.
Wendell, you are the MVP. You will get the @ on Instagram that they do not care about, but I care about. It builds up over time. We might look up one day, and if Wendell keeps playing like this, he could be in that top 3 MVP. You know,
some of them care. We're getting reposted sometimes. Shout out to the Jungle Instagram page if you aren't following that. I just want to point out, you know, this Murray State team, it's getting talked about because Bruce does an incredible job of building these narratives with his press conferences. So,
and going on podcasts like John Rothstein's podcast, which follow that one. If you're following this one, he's probably the best college basketball reporter. We're hoping. I live in New York, and he lives in New York. One day, I'm going to find him and shake his hand and get a guerrilla reporting interview where I like ask him questions on the street. You know,
we love John, and I've liked John for years, and he's kind of famous now. He does the "Welcome to the Jungle" basketball tweet every time Auburn wins. He does that with other teams too. But anyway, so Murray State is 43rd in the net rankings right now. And we kind of did this the other day with St. Louis. I thought a really cool graphic that I wasn't even aware of, and I kind of want to fact check them. And it looks like it's correct.
I think I take a picture sometimes of these graphics when they
did too.
Put up on the screen. I saw that one too. I don't know if I saved it or no. I didn't.
How about this one right here? I'm showing you right now on the screen.
Oh yeah, there you go. So we might put this episode up on YouTube, so this might be the first time that's actually useful to look at this kind of stuff.
But you know, Auburn has played 5 teams in the top 70 in the net in the non-conference. UConn was one. They're 17 right now, so that's our only loss. Loyola Chicago is 14. UCF is 49, which kind of surprised me. And then St. Louis is 70, which we saw how good that team was.
Loyola Chicago one's pretty surprising. 17. You're not getting I mean, they're getting 14. A lot more respect. 14?
Yep.
They're getting a lot more respect these days from the runs they've made, and they just seem to really build the program.
And to be clear, you know, net is just, it's metrics, it's analytics, it's
but it's the one that matters, right?
It's the one that matters. So that means Loyal's played a good schedule and they have some good wins, is what that means. But Murray State,
they're shooting really well from 3. We saw that Loyola went off on 3 in the first half for us, and then we slowed them up later in that game. If I was looking through stats today, setting them on the mat, Loyola's like top 10 right now in 3-point shooting. So, you know, we did good to slow them down.
We'll get into this more as we get, you know, closer to March, but this is right now it's a quad 1 win, which are the best kind of wins you can get. This is a team that is ahead of North Carolina right now in the net. Kentucky is like 10 spots ahead of them, 12 spots ahead of them. So this is a great win.
They beat Memphis. They lost to East Tennessee State, which throws everything off, but they're now 10-2. And I mean, that's pretty impressive going through that conference, no matter who you're playing. So it's a good win. Like you're right. Bruce really hyped this one up going in, that this is going to be a tough one. We knew St. Louis too was going to be a tough one. He's done a great job of keeping people motivated. He won't have to work as hard to keep them motivated come SEC play. The SEC's, we'll talk more about the SEC in our preview, but we can talk more. We talked Wendell. Go ahead.
What about Flanagan? Let's talk about Flanagan. This was the triumphant return. What were your thoughts watching him back on the court again?
He's back, like Cam Newton out here. He was fine. You know, they tried to play limited minutes with him. I thought for sure he would come in. We do pretty quick changes out there playing 10 guys. And he played twice in a row through a TV timeout. And I was surprised to see that in his first possession. I think he ended up playing like 6 minutes in the first half. So it's probably just that first time he came in through the TV timeout to the end of whatever that possession was. That's probably all he played. He was fine. Matt made a good observation. He texted me, he said, does he look smaller out there? And I think part of it's our team is a lot bigger when you have a guy like Jabari out there. We didn't even have a guy close to Walker Kessler out there last time. But not only does he look a little shorter, which is fine. I mean, last year we had to like post him up at times, and we still saw it this game. We tried to work it down low to him at times. But man, when you're trying to work the ball down to Jabari and Walker Kessler, and then you see Flanagan trying to do the same moves, you're like, wow, those other guys are freaks compared to this. And when Flanagan did that last year, it made sense. This year, I'm like, I don't know. But not only does he look a little shorter, he also looks a little less muscular. Last year, he was our kind of pick. Every year we have a pick of a guy that turns from like mush to absolute steel and muscle that by the next year. And that was Flanagan last year, almost unrecognizable between the 2 years. He's almost shrunk back a little bit. We'll see if that affects anything or if that was from, not being able to work out the same amount, or maybe that was a choice. But overall, he's fine. He missed a 3 badly at one point. He scored a couple points. Where did he end up at?
Got fouled on that 3.
Yeah, I didn't see it or not, but he was fine. He was moving around fine. You kind of hoped he could go 100% by LSU game because we really want to win that game. It'll suck to like lose a close one and then know that the team's gotten better in the last like 4 or 5 games, but he's back. And that's the big takeaway.
I mean, that's what we wanted, right? Mid-December return, looked healthy. Within the first minute, he had a rebound, a great pass for an assist, a block. Like he defended, who's their guy, Brown, who had 22 of their 58 points. He was a monster out there, and Flanagan did a really good job on a few possessions chasing him around.
You knew he would be that Brown from the other team, from Murray State, because he's from Florence, Alabama, which you just know those guys that have that chip on their shoulder when they come back to play against their hometown kind of team that didn't recruit them or whatever. So you knew he was going to go off, and he was a menace out there. He was hard to stop. We had to like play some mind games at one point. Good job on Cambridge to like go get in his face and get a flagrant foul on him. So good for him on that one, even though they called it a flagrant, and a flagrant's like a foul that you're supposed to be like kind of doing a basketball move, but you are too intense about it, or like you didn't make the correct move like as an actual basketball move. He just straight pushed him. That's a technical. I don't know how that's even like a basketball move at all. So
Cambridge he baited him and he sold it. I mean, I give Cambridge a lot of credit for that. Like you said, you kind of you're okay with some fouls at some points against guys like that, just to show that we're physical. We're an SEC team. And I did, again, this is another one of those games. He played 36 minutes out of 40. It felt like the later the game went on, the quieter he was, because we were throwing everybody, all of our guards chased him at different points in the game.
Yeah, I feel like we had Zep on him early, maybe, and Zep got blown by a couple times, which is sad to see because he's been such a lockdown guy. And I think 2 games in a row, we've had that great point guard do that to him, and then this game also. So it sucks to see that he was like that lockdown guy, but that's just going to happen against good players. You can't lock these guys down all game long, and you hope that with the depth that Zep's still fresh to lock these guys down later. Another thing with Flanagan, before we move on from him, is going to be how he gels with this team. It was interesting to kind of see like if he was going to force the issue or how we're going to work the ball to him, or if we're even going to work the ball to him. Because, man, early in this game, we looked like maybe not the very first part of it, but midway through the first, we would really feel like we were gelling. We were making some no-look passes and stuff underneath the basket to wide open guys. Like I was texting Matt, this team is gelling. It's been great to see with 4 new starters, how much we gelled. Then we bring Flanagan back in, who should be a ball dominant guy, the kind of guy you're looking for. But then you're watching Wendell drive past guys and score. You still have KD out there. It's very exciting. You're still trying to work the ball to Walker Kessler. Of course, you're trying to get the ball at Jabari. Jabari's got the green light from anywhere at this point. So when are we trying to work the ball to Flanagan? Like we have to watch the lineups, because there's always going to be at this point, which is amazing to have. There's always going to be 2 guys in the kind of guys you work the ball to. You might have Wendell and Flanagan, and then Wendell can go do his thing half the time. Sure, he's the point guard, but he might just go drive the ball. You can have a KD in, which he's not been playing great, but he's still the kind of guy that can go get great points. Jabari, Walker. There's always going to be 2 of those guys in. So it'll be interesting to see over the span if Flanagan takes a back seat, or if they really try to like halfway through SEC play, make it a point that, no, this is a first round kind of guy. He's the one that needs to take it over Wendell or whoever else,
To me, the interesting part and the value of a guy like Alan Flanagan back is, the way they did it today. We'll see how it fluctuates. We were texting about all the different lineup options Bruce now has with these 11 guys, 12 if you count stretch. So a lot of options. Well, Bruce talked about after the game, like everybody better stay ready. Chris Moore did not play meaningful minutes tonight because Lior got the backup small forward minutes over him, but we're an injury or foul trouble away from Stretch playing meaningful SEC minutes, from Chris Moore playing meaningful minutes.
I get you.
So
I think we'll play some smaller lineups with Jabari and Jalen Williams if we get in foul trouble, but guaranteed Kentucky game, there will be foul trouble. It's every year. I told Matt that we need to do like a breakdown of how many more fouls we have during Kentucky games. Every year our centers are in trouble. So I guarantee Walker and Cardwell. I've been called out. It's Cardwell. It's been 2 years of me saying it incorrectly. So Cardwell, they're going to get in foul trouble, and Stretch might play, but I think for sure Jalen and Jabari will just move back in there. So we'll see how much Stretch actually plays.
Good point. I thought it was interesting that Flanagan played basically the backup two. The 2 and 3 are very similar in Bruce's offense, but he played behind KD, which means that Cambridge, Lior, and Chris Moore are kind of at that 3 spot. And I think, and they toyed with it in the second half, they can easily roll Flanagan down there to the 3 to have another offensive weapon if they feel like they need that. It's just so many options. And as long as this team stays team-centered, which I see no reason why they won't, it's a great problem to have. So good to have Flanagan back. You mentioned the 7 blocks are huge for Kessler, 11 blocks. I wanted to talk about the turnovers a little bit. There were 2 stretches in this game. I know in the first half, 3 straight possessions started out by my beloved Zep Jasper, who threw it to the other team and they got a layup out of it. It made me sad. That was his 1 turnover, I believe. Or did he?
So he stayed on ratio. I texted that he probably just dropped 20 spots when he threw that 1 turnover, because it's that fine of a margin when you're doing assist to turnover like that. But he's one of the best in the country, so you hate to see any really bad ones like that.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, so he had 1, Jabari had a terrible pass, and Cambridge had a terrible pass right in a row. And to me, to be fair, I was really impressed with Murray State's physicality. I was impressed with their basketball approach. Like that's a good team that could easily be in the tournament. So I want to give them credit. But again, it just speaks to this team. To me, this was almost like a 20 turnover game watching it. It's like, man, it just seems like we're turning the ball. In 13, which I'd have to look at the stats, but I feel like last year's team averaged 14, 15, 16 a game. And I don't even know if we've come close to that this year. So
we were due for like 5 to 10 turns just straight from the point guard trying to get the ball up the court. So we can kind of take those out automatically and have regular turnovers just off passes and like getting stripped going to the basket. We ended up tying them 13-13 on turnovers. So
yeah, it's great when you can break even when you feel like you've kind of given a lot away. We get spoiled because Auburn always forces turnovers by the other team, it seems like, no matter who they are. And you mentioned rebounding. That's the key to this game. They lost by 19 against St. Louis, scrapped, found a way to win, and then tonight they won by 15. And I thought that Murray State team was pretty they weren't as tall in the front line, not many teams are, but they're pretty physical, and I didn't feel like many rebounds were easy. I think Auburn had to really work for those. You made a great point about, I really think there was a concerted effort for the big guys to box out and the small guards to kind of make sure you stay home, get the rebound, and then go. I think you really saw that play out tonight.
You want to talk about, I'll give you 2 passes. I want to talk about both of them, but you can choose. Do you want to talk about Jabari's jump shooting, or do you want to talk about KD and the future of this lineup with KD?
I mean, one's more fun to talk about than the other. Jabari, let's do both. I mean, Jabari is becoming, he's 50% in his last 40-ish threes, which is incredible for a guy at his size. I mean, it really is NBA elite stuff. He's getting hand in his face on a lot of these too. I mean,
the way he rises up on his threes, he's contested, but by how quickly he gets up and how much taller he is than the guy guarding him, it almost opens up immediately. Just by him jumping, he turns into an open 3. Now, I wish he would take slightly more actual open 3s and pass that ball when it's contested, but when he can do that, what are you going to do? And part of the jump shot I was talking about was not only his 3s, but he frustrated me a little bit with this crazy thing, because he has one of the best jump shots from like inside the 3-point line they've ever seen. And he keeps making them. So what are you going to say? Makes those all year. I'm never going to complain, I guess. But also I want him to drive the ball. And he did in the second half once or twice. But he keeps having this tendency where he's on the 3-point line. And he goes to drive the ball, gets stopped or cut off, and then does like a turnaround jump shot. Well, it keeps going in, so it works. But it's not like a high percentage shot. It's not the shot you want. And we also need him to go collect fouls too and go get that 3-point play. And he's not doing it. So I don't know, like when you start pushing that, or his jump shot's so good, why push it? I don't know.
Great point. He's not finishing as much around the rim as you would think if it's not a dunk. It's hard to complain about it. I am curious. He did a good job holding his own tonight. There were guys who were kind of trying to rough him up a little bit in out of bounds plays and going for rebounds. He stood up to that okay. I am curious against SEC teams, how does he do inside? I thought one of the biggest standout things for me from this game was put him in the post a couple times, and both possessions were just beautiful, got great shots. It wasn't necessarily for him, but it just opens everything up because everybody pays attention to him when he's within 10 or 15 feet of the basket. So I loved seeing that development. Him and Kessler both got post touches, which are hard. You hardly ever see it anymore. And they were all productive tonight.
They're really coming together, those post touches too. We've talked about in Bruce's offense, we've had issues getting the ball to big guys before. We talked about Wiley so many times, how hard it was to get to him. But you're seeing, I think, partially twofold. I think we're getting a lot better at it. Wendell's getting some really good passes now. The rest of the team is. Jabari's tall, so he can get some really good passes into Kessler. Jabari's tall, so we can go the other way around where he can throw it up to him. Another interesting thing, though, is their hands. We talked about Wiley so many times. Walker Kessler's catching some really good stuff and finishing it, too, like immediately. We talked about the first game or two. He put the ball down a couple times and tried to do, like, backed up dribbling. Rarely do we see that at times now. He might put the ball down one time, but so many possessions he's scoring, catching alley-oops or getting a one step into the dunk. His hands are great. He's got some really good bag of tricks too down there where he keeps making good moves and doing like hooks and things that are really pretty. And even when they don't go in, you almost always feel like, but that was good. Like that was a good possession. That was a good shot, And Jabari's just so athletic down there. Once he gets down there, usually his guy's smaller than him and he's just too athletic for him. You wish like this is kind of stuff that kind of like builds up in the game. And when he's scoring, it doesn't matter. But at the end of the game, if you could look up and he got 3 or 4 fouls on someone and had a and one situation a couple times, that builds up eventually. And so he's scoring with these jump shots and he's scoring even down low on these finesse plays. But you wish he would embrace the contact and get some of those and ones and put fouls on other people. We hold him to such a high standard.
Right.
He's amazing. We just know he can do even more. We want to see it all,
Yeah. And again, he's 10 or 12 games into his college career. So, very possible that by game 35, we're seeing more of that. It'll be interesting. Again, like any freshman, it'll be interesting to see how he handles conference play. One more note on him. They went to a zone. I don't know how a team is, unless they just have a terrific zone, is going to play zone against this Auburn team, because you literally just put Jabari in the middle, get in the ball, and he is going to finish or make a pass to an open shooter. We know how lethal, a lot of these guys can be from 3-point range. It Syracuse, really had no shot, and they play one of the most vaunted styles of zone defense. I just think it's really going to limit other teams. There have been Auburn teams in the past that you throw a zone at them, and it's just not good. It doesn't seem like you get great shots, but with Jabari, it's just so easy. It's like a cheat code.
What does Ole Miss play that's just frustrated the hell out of us for years?
1-3-1, a 1-3-1 that drops into something else. It's kind of extended out, and that'll be a great matchup to think about when we get.
Luckily, they lost to Samford earlier, so hopefully that's a sign of how good they are. Like Samford from Birmingham, Samford.
Doesn't mean anything though. I mean, that's so standard in college basketball, but you're right. And that'll be a great thing to watch for. That I'm going to mark that down as my pregame thought for Ole Miss when we get there.
Frank Martin seemed to have Bruce's number for a little bit there, but I think we've broken through how to play rough against Frank Martin teams. But Ole Miss's Kermit Davis has had our number for a little bit. We just end up passing the ball around and taking contested threes all game and shooting terribly away. So it'll be interesting to see how we do against that.
We
talked about Jabari.
Okay. I got one more. Walker. I mean, think about where we were 3 weeks ago. You had a lot of comments about like, man, is Walker, like, is he going to get it? Is he going to be a threat on offense? He again led the team in scoring. You're tied with Wendell Green, one ahead of Jabari tonight on 7 shots. He only took 7 shots. So like the efficiency Walker's playing with offensively, you mentioned the moves. I just wanted to point that out. Like we haven't really talked about it, but Walker tied Wendell in points and was really effective on offense, which is, we got to note that for where we were a month ago with him.
That's a good point. Maybe you can make a good case for him to be MVP instead of Wendell just by the fact that he's tied We might as well. I don't want to like do that every time, because I think it's going to happen so much. Like it's almost more interesting to talk about having to make the actual final decision, but because Walker, we talk about the rebounds with Wendell and the scoring with Wendell on the half court shot or whatever, but the impact Walker has on the game on defense is insane. I mean, you talk about 7 blocks, but it's not just 7 blocks. Like people are scared to go down there on top of him. And how many times, I mean, we've seen plenty of big men in our time or whatever, like sure, Walker's an inch or two higher or whatever, but his blocking technique to not get a bunch of fouls on him, to not body these guys is really impressive. And so to like have that, and then the rebounding on top of that, and the points now that he's like really like leading the team down low when we really need it. Hopefully Flanagan comes in and kind of gets more bodied up scoring going. And Jalen actually had a really good game on some of that today, but Walker, man.
One more thing about Walker. I think we just have to talk about like Walker seems like the nicest dude in the world. Like he'll block somebody and go help him up. He always like asks the ref, like, hey, what if he gets a foul called, he wants an explanation. He's like, oh, I got you. Even if it's total crap from the ref, he'll look over at the bench. He's really like accepting, it seems like, of coaching. He just seems like a genuinely like cool dude in addition to his endurance and his skill set. But he is, I mean, I've been calling him elite for 2 weeks. He is an elite rim protector. I mean, I don't know really anybody. You'd have to go back to some Kyle Davis, Mamadou Ndiaye stuff with Auburn basketball to even find someone in the right stratosphere as him.
Yeah, he's playing amazingly. And I think I put it on Instagram. I don't know if we actually mentioned it in the podcast so far. We are leading the nation in blocked shots. I don't know if it's blocked shots per game or overall blocked shots. It's probably both, I'm sure at this point. How impressive is that, man? And so much of it is Walker Kessler. Sure, Jabari's getting a good amount of blocks too for where he's at. A couple of the guys are really doing well, but it's mostly Walker's just leading the way, man. And that is just, I would love to see our stats in the past. Like I know we've gotten some good block shots in the past, but it's so much fun to watch. It's great. I love it.
What's your KD take? What's your KD
take? I know we wanted to keep it shorter, but KD's just not playing that well. He's turning into a turnover machine. He had 4 turnovers tonight. He shoots stuff that's bad shots. He's not getting the Hamburglar moments anymore. I still think he can, like, it's just becoming a trend, which is sad because the trend was how great he was playing and it was becoming a KD fan podcast. So it's just something to watch. And the biggest thing to watch was I texted Matt this. Bruce does not like to change his starting lineups. Matt's talked about that a bunch of times, but he changed the starting lineup at the start of the year to put KD in. Well, now Wendell has just turned it around completely. Wendell was having some issues, and that's why KD came in. And really, it was KD who was playing so well. But Wendell's playing so well at this point. You wonder what it would take to get Wendell back in. 5 games of this, and 1 more game. Like, how frustrated is Bruce with KD right now? Like, where do we put KD in the team right now? Does, you looked at the minutes to see that Chris Moore lost a lot of minutes. Leor's still playing. Cambridge is still playing with Flanagan's in. Does KD start losing minutes maybe with Flanagan in, playing the 2 position more? I don't know, but it'll be something interesting to watch.
No doubt. It was great to see him hit a rhythm 3. It was garbage time at the end, but it's the most comfortable I've seen him look on a normal, like, jump shot. And I think that's a good sign. We wondered out loud when he was getting so many steals and attacking the basket so effectively. People have scouted him now and made adjustments, I think. And he's not getting some of those calls, which is always the risk when you play that aggressive of a style. Like, sometimes you're not going to get the call. And when you don't, there's this weird basketball thing where you have to look like competent and know what you're doing to get a good call a lot of times. And that's, we talk about Samir all the time as that great example from the one year to the next year when he took that huge jump. Like, the first year he looked very tentative. He looked like he didn't necessarily belong going in the lane in the SEC. Never got a call ever. Second year, more confident, more assertive, just looks the part better. And KD does at times, don't get me wrong. And there are going to be games in the long SEC grind where KD brings the energy, the chaos, the Auburn basketball that we need to see. So he's going to be a crucial part of this team regardless. And he should be, and he deserves to be. But that to me is one of the big storylines with Flanagan coming back. With Zepp had a terrible, probably his worst game of the year tonight, but it doesn't matter because you have so many other options on this team again. So how does KD deal with that? And he just needs to not press. I feel like he's been pressing a little bit. He had reached such a level of almost cult hero over the last few weeks when he was playing that well. I think he'll settle in, but it's been a bumpy last 4 or 5 games probably.
We can go through some pregame notes real quick. I know we wanted to keep this one
Yep.
shorter, but I'll let you go quickly on both of ours. So here's yours, and just give me a quick yeses and nos or whatever, and I won't comment on it. But how does Allen Flanagan look in his first action back from injury?
Thought he looked like himself. The shooting is going to take a minute, but it looked like his legs were good. He looked athletic. I was happy with him.
Can Auburn extend their non-conference home winning streak to 39 games against a quality team?
Totally just put that in there so we could give that again. There's one more home game against Oklahoma in the SEC Big 12 Challenge later this year, but 39 straight home non-conference wins that goes back 4 or 5 years. Shout out to the coaches and the players who have made that possible. That's awesome. We just talked about how good of a team Murray State is. Huge to keep that streak going.
And shout out to the Jungle student section and the alums that did not act their age tonight and got into the game. That was the thing Bruce said. That
was my third one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it my third?
Oh, it is your third one. Sorry, I shouldn't even commented. Will the crowd be electric with most students gone in an early 5 p.m. tip?
It wasn't electric, but it was really good for the 5 p.m., the holidays. Students have been off for 2 weeks now. I know there's a lot of local kids still, but it was a good crowd. You didn't notice it being bad. Let's put it that way. And that, to me, that's a win. And again, just this Bruce and his staff, they just get it. They get how to market it. They get how to make people aware of things they need to be aware of.
There's some talk online about empty seats in the stadium's nice because tickets are going for crazy numbers. People really want to go, and yet there still seems to always be a couple empty seats here and there in these weekday games. I'd love to hear if they come up with a solution on how to fill up those seats. It's clearly people with season tickets and businesses and stuff, and people just can't make it to a 5 p.m. tip on a Wednesday if you live in Birmingham or you live in anywhere within an hour. So I hope they figure out a way to let them share those tickets.
You have season tickets. You're making this financial investment. To me, that's just, it's always been bad at Auburn. From the time we were there, when I started, it was bad. Even when the basketball was bad, even when there were big games, it would be half full in the scholarship section. It's gotten better. Still needs to get better for us to get to that next tier. If you have season tickets, give them to someone. If you're not, I don't know why you wouldn't be selling them. Sell them.
Yeah, they're going for a lot of money at this point. There's really no excuse at this point with StubHubs and Ticketmasters and different stuff doing reselling. I know some people are not as tech savvy, but if you made enough money to have season tickets in these nice sections, I'm sure you have an assistant or a daughter or somebody that can do that. I guess if people really don't care about the money, honestly, if they're making that much to do that, but hopefully we push that a little bit. But anyways, I'll do mine real quick. Can we win the turnover battle against a team with a good turnover plus minus? Read that they had a pretty good plus minus. It was even. So that kind of showed, I think, that Murray State does a good job. Both teams had 13, which is I don't know if that's a slightly lower number. I don't know what the average number is, but I feel like we kind of push teams to do 15 plus a lot of times. And that's when we're really taking it to them, and they didn't go 15 plus. So that's good. Can we slow down their hot 3-point shooting? Let's see. They shot 38% from 3. So a little here and there, but they didn't make that many. 7's not so crazy. So that's all right. We did slow them down a lot in field goal percentage. They had one of the best field goal percentages in the nation. I think they were 4th in field goal percentage in the nation at above 50%. Maybe we kept them at 33%. Now they missed a lot of weird stuff. They missed a dunk at one point. They missed some things. So sometimes the ball's going your way. They missed a lot of free throws. They were 61% from free throw to our 75%. So good job on our defense. Good things went our way at times, And the last one is, can Allen Flanagan play meaningful minutes in his debut? I don't know if I would say, sure, he was in there during meaningful time. Yeah, he made some good plays. I'm going to say yes. He only played, I don't know how many minutes he ended up playing.
12.
If you have that stat up, but
I think it was 12.
Well, that's about how much he wanted to play this game. So he did good. He didn't blow anybody away. He wasn't didn't come in as Superman right away, but that's okay. He looked fine. He didn't look hobbled or anything. So I'm happy about it.
And just to set expectations, Bruce said after the game, the idea is you play 12, you play 16, you play 20. So it's going to be a multiple week buildup for him just to make sure he doesn't have any negative, reactions to playing at game speed and all that. So I would imagine he'll continue to, we're probably looking at a few more games of him coming off the bench. I actually just pulled this up. I was curious with minutes. We talked about Wendell and, Katie Johnson, Zepp, and Wendell on average have played within 1 minute of each other per game, the same, 24, 25 minutes, no matter who's been starting, no matter all that. And that's why I don't know if that'll be a huge deal, but you'll obviously see Flanagan getting up to that number. And I think the most fascinating thing, like we've talked about already, is who's how does that impact others, and what does that look like for the rotation?
Surprised Cardwell's so low. I know Kessler's up there, but a big guy like Kessler, you would think would play less minutes. You know, we usually try to limit those kind of guys, and Cardwell's pretty low on there. He's next to Stretch, between Lior and Stretch. So we love Cardwell. Sorry. Someone called me out online for pronouncing his name incorrectly all this time. I don't know. He's doing fine. He's got some dunks.
That's a testament to Kessler. Because what have we not talked about with Kessler all year? Maybe one time, foul.
Yeah, you're right.
All his blocks and the amount of time he's playing, I really believe he has surprised the coaches. And it takes away from Cardwell's minutes a little bit because Kessler's so good. You got to keep him in there.
If you can keep him in, you keep him in, because that's all that he alters everything in the game. And every time he's out, people talk about how the game changes completely. They're going to drive the ball more on us and everything. So Cardwell's a good player too. I really think that 4 years of Cardwell is going to be one of those guys we've already loved him to death because of the memes and the dancing and the like how he's embraced the lifestyle of Auburn. But I think 4 years of him playing will be great too.
I have two things, and I'm done with this game. We can go wherever direction you want. We did mention Jalen. I do want to give it. Jalen led the team in scoring in the first half with 9 points. He looked really comfortable. I always want to point that out because that's there, and you're not seeing it. Jabari leads the team in minutes played. He's going to play the most minutes of anybody on this team, and he deserves it. But Jalen's not bad.
Jabari was like 1-3, or not Jabari. Jalen was like 1-3 or one dunk or one more play away from us like talking about him for a meaningful amount in this podcast. I think he even shot a 3 that I literally thought in my head, if he makes this, it's going to be a good game. And he missed it. And you look at the stats and you're like, he was fine. He didn't make the impact you thought. Like when he started the way he did in the first half, if he continued that, we would be talking about how Jalen, like good for Jalen. Glad he can like pick it up when other people put it down. So one play away, that's all it is. One bounce away, you know.
He made one, and he had 2 wide open ones that he just missed. If he makes them, he leads the team scoring.
It looks good when he shoots. I don't know what his 3 percentage is for the year. It looks good, but it's just not. It's not going down the way I hoped it would.
Walker made one too. We got to always point out when Walker hits a 3, he was 1 for 2 from 3.
You hope he sticks around for another year and learns that 3, but the way he's playing, I know that's not the kind of style that the NBA is really playing right now, but he's just too much of a freak.
Basketball nerd moment. You ready? We need music for that. The coolest thing I saw that didn't work. I've never seen Bruce do this in all the years. Maybe somebody could point out when he has, and maybe I missed it. But you remember with Sharif and Jared, we just all in last game, right? The alley-oop, the middle ball screen up at the top with the alley-oop towards the goal, right? Yeah. Really, this was the Jared Harper, Anthony McLemore play. We ran that, but we did it with Devin Cambridge at the center to take the role. It didn't work, but I have never seen that before, and it got me really excited, and I just wanted to point it out on the podcast.
I mean, that's Cambridge's game. He either shoots the 3s or he gets the alley-oops, and that's it. And so, like, sure, run the plays to him. He's uber athletic. The announcers during the game, that play didn't work out, and they, like, said a decent point that he couldn't finish the ball, but he tried to, like, throw it at the goal, basically. He should have just called it and reset the play. But, you know, we can work on that, and it's just good to have him playing well at times and feeling like he can be dangerous. He always seems to shoot 2 or 3 threes to start the game. I guess it's like maybe Bruce and his way of being like, listen, you know, I'm good for like 1 30-point game a year where I'm just hot. So let me test it out at the beginning. If it's not working, I'll draw it back, you know?
I just want to put that it was a cool basketball nerd moment, and Jabari getting multiple touches in the post. We clearly had some special things for this game that we were messing with, so that was kind of
cool. Really a trend, and I think part of the trend of trying to get Jabari down there is he's usually bigger than his guy down there, and he's just super athletic, so you want to work the ball to him down there. But part of this too is that we need him to drive more, like we talked about earlier, and get some of those fouls on guys and kind of get into the body of it. And so I think that's part of Bruce's being like, well, if you're not going to take the drives to them, we will set you up down there to do those kind of plays. And so they're working it down there, and it's working. So
how about one more? I know I'm throwing stuff out. Sorry.
It's great. It's great.
Bench points. We talk about our depth and athleticism all the time, right? It was at one point 30-2 in bench points. It ended up 32-9. So again, just playing 11 guys, which we did tonight. That is just, it's special. I don't know if, I don't want people to take it for granted that you have this many guys that you can play and feel good about. It just wears people out when you combine that with our style of play. It's just it's a great match. And that's why I think we all feel like the ceiling's really high.
Yeah, it's you know, that we have an SEC preview coming up next podcast. We're very excited about, so we'll start wrapping this one up and talk more SEC basketball. We got some guys that are coming on to talk about some different aspects of Auburn basketball, some expertise, some fandom kind of stuff. Shout out to my Gosling's Rum Eggnog, the unofficial sponsor of the podcast. That's been enjoyable during this, and we're enjoying every game. Me and Matt were texting this entire time from Saturday to Wednesday, just saying, I'm just waiting for the news to come out that we have COVID on the team and this game gets canceled or whatever. It'll be the same for this LSU game where I'm just holding my breath for the LSU game. So enjoy what we got. Enjoy a game like this. I think some people take for granted these big 15, 20 point out of conference wins. They're fun. We have a team that's great. We're probably, hopefully going to be top 10 at the next poll. I guess that'll be, I don't know when the next poll comes out, next Sunday.
Monday, yeah.
Okay, so at this point, the way it's looking, we'll probably be top 10, even though I thought we'd be top 10 before that. So just enjoy that. We'll probably start hopefully getting the hype as like the lead team in the SEC.
Absolutely. I'm glad we've made it to SEC play. I keep saying this is a ring chasing team. We're going to talk a lot more about that. Like Jackson said, we got a couple guests coming on. Hope y'all will enjoy that. We're going to do our own talk about the schedule and just what this season looks like. And yeah, I'm ready to go, man. I think the SEC is wide open with a bunch of good teams at the top, maybe not an elite team, which I think is great. I think it's going to be a fun season. Like you said, hopefully COVID will not derail it too bad. I'm sure there will be maybe some delays and cancellations, but seems like the NCAA is going to do everything in their power to not lose that money from the tournament again. So I do think there's going to be a push to finish this thing out, but we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. I guess I don't think we might put out that SEC preview for your Christmas, but probably the day after Christmas. So thanks for listening. We love just getting on here and talking to you guys, and War Eagle.
War Eagle.